Edgar Allan Poe. People know him as the American author, poet, editor, and literary critic, part of the Romantic movement. However, his life history goes much further than we all know about. Just like him, the Poe family was full of full-stage dramas, but was known to be mysterious about it. They were seen as people who had many troubles within, but never permitted them to leave their households or beyond. Facts that go beyond our knowledge. Poe's father, David Poe Jr., disappeared from Edgar's life when he was a toddler. But before he was gone, he left two sons and a daughter, Rosalie Poe. Edgar's little sister lived with a very enticing gossip about who was her father, since it was known that Liza Poe, the mother, had had an affair with John Howard Payne. Rosalie's parentage was questionable to the whole family within the society outside. Nevertheless, nobody ever found out the truth about her. He was born as Edgar Poe in Boston, Massachusetts. He was orphaned young when his mother died shortly after his father abandoned the family. Poe was taken in by John and Frances Allan of Richmond, Virginia, but they never formally adopted him. He attended the University of Virginia for one semester, but left due to lack of money. After enlisting in the army and later failing as an officer's cadet at West Point, Poe parted ways with the Allans. His publishing career began humbly with an anonymous collection of poems, Tamerlane and Other Poems, 1827, credited only to a Bostonian. Humiliated by his poverty and furious with Allan for not providing enough funds in the first place, Poe returned to Richmond and visited the home of his fiancée Elmira Royster, only to discover that she had become engaged to another man in Poe's absence. The heartbroken Poe's last few months in the Allan mansion were punctuated with increasing hostility towards Allan until Poe finally stormed out of the home in a quest to become a great poet and to find adventure. When he was barely 18, he published his first book, Tamerlane. It was after this that he enlisted in the U.S. Army. 2 years later, he heard that Frances Allan, the only mother he had ever known, was dying of tuberculosis and wanted to see him before she died. By the time Poe returned to Richmond, she had already been buried. Poe and Allan briefly reconciled. Before going to West Point, Poe published another volume of poetry. While there, Poe was offended to hear that Allan had remarried without telling him or even inviting him to the ceremony. Poe wrote to Allan detailing all the wrongs Allan had committed against him and threatened to get himself expelled from the academy. After only 8 months at West Point, Poe was thrown out, but he soon published yet another book. Broken alone, Poe turned to Baltimore, his late father's home, and called upon relatives in the city. One of Poe's cousins robbed him in the night, but another relative, Poe's aunt Maria Clem, became a new mother to him and welcomed him into her home. Clem's daughter, Virginia, first acted as a courier to carry letters to Poe's lady loves, but soon became the object of his desire. While Poe was in Baltimore, Allan died, leaving Poe out of his will, which did, however, provide for an illegitimate child Allan had never seen. By then, Poe was living in poverty, but had started publishing his short stories, one of which won a contest sponsored by the Saturday Visitor. The connections Poe established through the contest allowed him to publish more stories and to eventually gain an editorial position at the Southern Literary Messenger in Richmond. It was at this magazine that Poe finally found his life's work as a magazine writer. Within a year, Poe helped make the Messenger the most popular magazine in the South with the sensational stories as well as with his scathing books reviews. Poe soon developed a reputation as a fearless critic who not only attacked an author's work but also insulted the author and the Northern literary establishment. Poe targeted some of the most famous writers in the country. One of his victims was the anthologist and editor Rufus Griswold.